I have the steps. Fascinating. But there's a delay, so that's really not what I want to take a look at, because we're here to test things. And this is just a test of going live from Zoom. And we got that. So it's all recording and it's live. So what I had to do was just move things to my public account, Rob Tyrie, and everything worked. So it is possible. You just have to select the right accounts. Rock and roll. Signing off from YouTube Live. This is recorded and saved. I'm just preparing for the 1,000-day radar for the Grace One Guild. Big set of events coming up on November 10th and 11th. Looking at 1,000 days into the future, which is 3 years. So near-term future, sidecasting. So one of the things that's very true about 3-year forecasting is that it's a thing that has small fidelity, right? So human nature suggests that if people guess what will happen in the next 5 years, they usually guess too much or too far in the future. And when they guess further out at 20 years, they usually under rate or under suggest or under guess the rate of change. So 20 years out, so think of it now. So we're at 2021. 20 years out is 2041. 2042, the life answer to all things, 42. But the 20 years out, to think of how the differences will be, let's just take a look back 20 years now, from today to the year 2000, height of the dot-com boom, where we cared about big fat desktop computers that cost $5,000 each. There was no Google that was effective and useful other than for search. It was not a multi-billion-dollar company. It was not near to be a trillion-dollar company. No one even guessed it would be a trillion-dollar company. That was 20 years ago. Nobody guessed what we're doing right now. No one guessed the pandemic. No one guessed Zoom. No one guessed live streaming on YouTube from Zoom. Nobody. I was there. I was building advanced technology for large-scale insurance companies and large-scale banks, large-scale budgets, and we were inventing the future as it was being put forth by other innovative companies like, oh, just a second, Twitter, non-existent. Facebook, non-existent. What did we have back then? Nothing. We had websites. MySpace was still a thing. People thought it might come back. That's 20 years. 3 years ago, it was 2018. And if you think back of all the things outside the pandemic, 3 years ago is like today. Yeah, there are more Teslas now, but they were here 3 years ago. The laptop I have on my desk right now is actually just almost 3 years old. It's the same laptop I had that was around the world. I bought an advanced laptop with an i7 series Pentium, but still it's the same device. 3 years, not much. So 3 years out, more of the same with certain intensities, certain resonance. So 3 years out, certainly something that we've experienced for now almost 2 years, remote work, hybrid work. Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that will be in place that are important to us, that will be systemic, that will be institutionalized, that we will continue with. Smartphones will continue to be extremely advanced device, and we'll look towards more edge computing. So what we're doing now with AI, that you have to be connected to the web for, I think in 3 years, it's going to be pretty obvious that phones will have more memory in them and there'll be edge computing. So some of the things that happen, like word completion, your accent, your sounds, your preferences will be on your phone. You couple that with 5G, massively different applications in 3 years, because that technology is here right now. Advances are interesting. Forecasting is interesting. It is as hard as you think it is. So on one hand, it's easier to broaden your mind and guess some things and be provocative about 20 years out. This is the flying car argument. Yes, you could guess that there'll be flying cars for everyone, or drones that will be parked in our garage that go straight up and have a slice of air pass that just drive, and they're super safe and we don't think about them, and no one ever dies from falling out of a drone, that would be laughter. And it's in 20 years from now, I will have robots at my disposal in my house. I will be old. In 20 years, I'll be 77 years old. Hopefully alive still, and with my robot that is picking up after me a little bit. Probably not cooking anything complicated, but certainly be able to prep food. Will able to definitely go shopping for me. But shopping won't really be that way. That would be 20 years out. Shopping is a nudge that you get saying, do you want what you had last week or 2 weeks ago? Or we noticed that this is a real better spread. We just got a reference from your doctor, and yeah, you're getting more green stuff this week, Rob. And all that orange juice that you're buying has now been switched to Metamucil. Yeah, it's a definite likelihood. In 3 years, that's not happening. It's not happening for anyone. No one's going to have a robot like that. No one's going to get a suggestion like that from their doctor or their hospital system. Not in 3 years. You're going to have beautiful entertainment, highly split, highly tuned entertainment for 1 million people at a time that will pay for great things from great artists. NFTs will be boring, for sure. They'll be boring. 3 years from now, they'll be replaced by something else as that science settles down. Right now, NFTs are kind of like a bookmark. They're not value. People think that they're the value, and they're a bookmark pointing to an event that happened that gives you the right to something that's out on the web. And what people should realize is they should go get that something. So if it's a digital painting, make sure that it's in a vault or it's on your hard drive, because you just have proof of ownership and you have the first and only one of that thing, which is copyable. You have the first and only one of that thing that's copyable. It's like more like a mold and a piece of art than anything else. And you've got this sort of event that no one can say anyone had that thing before you did. It's just a marker. Having physical objects is way easier, because if this NFT was the Mona Lisa and we worried about real value, well, you'd be the Louvre and you would own the Mona Lisa. You would have it. In the case of today's NFT, it's just a sort of pointer that you might own it, you might not. Disputes are way too easy with it. So it's early days. In 3 years, won't change that very much. 3 years, Bitcoin, what's it going to be? Half the value? Displaced by something else, zero the value? Given the volatility looking backwards, it's likely that it'll be half the value it is right now. It's also likely that it'll be double the value that is now in 3 years. Because if you look at that 3-year time slice, you do some simulation of the pricing and the volatility up and down. It is unique in that so many people have that asset, and it is got a limit, 21 million units. If the people believe it is the one, it will be the one. Just like any other currency, it's based on the belief of the people of what to do with it. Only I said currency, I made a mistake. It's an asset. It's not a currency. You can own it, absolutely. You can trade it, absolutely. Like you can trade it as any asset. You can trade your house as an asset. You can trade that. Your stocks and bonds are assets. You may or may not be able to trade those. But it's not currency. It's not backed by anything else but the belief of the people that own it. And the trading systems that exist right now on Bitcoin are just so early days. It doesn't act like money. You can't go buy food with it everywhere like you can a US dollar or a Canadian dollar or a euro. You can't buy an airplane ticket with it. You can't attach it to a credit card and have that payment service settle your transactions with it yet. And that's not going to change in 3 years. Highly unlikely the payment system will evolve that quickly. It's highly unlikely that the regulation from government will catch up to it. And remember, it's not just catching up to the technology. There are institutions and families that are vehemently opposed to any kind of cryptocurrency existing and being widespread. Governments can't like it because right now they can't tax it clearly and efficiently. Banks can't like it because it's outside their purview. They can't decide to hold a Bitcoin transaction as long as they want to, like they do with today's currency. That's a lot to give up. Banks have been running like this for 300 years. There's no difference between the Bank of Canada, the 5 major banks in Canada, and the government of Canada. They all got set up in the 1850s. They're part of the fabric of this country. It's part of the stability of this country. And to change it and place it in the hands of nobody in a highly decentralized environment in the next 3 years, it's not going to happen. What will happen in the world of cryptocurrency is a lot more crime. Absolutely. It is a mechanism where there's enough ignorance and enough greed and enough surreptitious activity and that's not monitored cleanly and clearly, although it could be by governments or regulatory bodies or enforcement bodies. So it will continue. It's been successful. This is some of the largest organized crime on the planet. Certainly that's to do with fraud. It doesn't kill people. It's classic sort of white collar fraud. Like, who gets hurt when someone extorts a company, or who gets hurt when somebody takes all the data from a company about personalized information and sells it to the highest bidder? Who really gets hurt? Nobody. No one's dead. No one's in jail. Now the economy is impacted. The belief in the economy is impacted. The fear of the population of using computing to do things is impacted. The lack of trust that builds up against government institutions increases. That'll happen in 3 years. And governments better do something. So that's a big change that will happen in 3 years for sure. Is that governments will react to cyber terrorism that's going on, the cyber criminality, the cyber fraud, the cyber extortion. And because it respects no borders, and because it's organized, well, things like Interpol, the CIA, the FBI, the RCMP, CSIS, CSE, all have to be used as instruments, MI6, MI5. This is the thing and stuff of James Bond movies that can happen right now. Except there's no one sitting around a large circular table. There's no big Zoom screen of criminals actually organizing this, because there doesn't have to be. It's like the technology of Bitcoin itself. It's highly decentralized. It's an idea. The idea spreads. And it's incredible how, I don't know, how civilized it seems that they can do this. They can set up a website and a set of mechanisms and an approach to at once deliver ransomware, so software that invades, so breaks access into your computing systems, takes control over them with system administrator access, changes all the passwords so you can't get access to it. Can you imagine in the morning when you get up to use your laptop and you get that screen that comes up and says put in your PIN or put in your password, or when you log into your Google Mail and it throws that authentication up? Imagine if you go to log in and it says password fail, or you get a message on your phone that you wake up in the morning to and you see that someone's changed your password, and if it's not you, it's an emergency. All your accounts and everything your phone was linked to is now open to some stranger. And these strangers aren't draining bank accounts when a hospital is attacked, or in the case of Toronto this week, the Toronto Transit Commission being attacked. Well, they locked them out of their own computing systems. They, for all intents and purposes, broke their email system, so they couldn't do email. So what is that? Is that really terrorism? Is it just gross? It's not negligence, but is it just goofing around? These are like spray paint artists. But it's serious. And right now, because the governments don't really understand the impacts of how serious things are, in Newfoundland, the hospital system was shut down. And people are going to die. And they will die in the next 3 years. And so who's going to do this? Who needs to respond? First of all, the businesses and government administrators have to declare the risk. Insurers will step up, right? What's going to happen within the next 3 years is that insurers won't insure companies that don't follow a set of steps and practices. So just like you've got a fire alarm in your house, and if you have a business, you've got an alarm on your business, and you don't keep cash in your business, and you put that sign on the door, insurance companies just won't insure you. And if you can't get insurance in Canada and in the US, you're not in business. Now think about that. So the insurance companies will set up what risk management is. So they won't do anything about the technology or the systems or taking care of the crime. They'll just say that, hey, whoa, we're not covering the risk anymore. The businesses have to cover the risk, rebuild their systems or resecure their systems or add a layer of defenses and proactive measures. And that certainly can happen, but who's going to pay? The businesses will pay from their profits, yes. And the public will pay, and an inflationary cycle will occur if the governments do nothing. If there is no law enforcement over people obviously breaking into computer systems, they're obviously doing it. If no one acts on enforcing it, well, it'll never stop. So those are my early thoughts on 3-year outlook. Narrowcasting, a little bit of backcasting of going out, wait 20 years out, bringing it back to 3 years out, what's likely, what's not likely. In 3 years, I will have an electric car, and I will leave you at that. Take care, and I'll talk to you later during the 1,000 day radar, 3 years out. I'm Rob Tyrie. I am a co-founder of the Grey Swan Guild. We bring together people from around the world to apply sense-making, new analytical techniques, design thinking, critical thinking, systems thinking, to try and make the world a better place together. I look forward to talking to you soon.